It didn't feel like a tragedy when it happened, just a quiet kind of wrong that I couldn't name at the time. My name is Harry. I'm 82 years old, and I've spent the better part of my life trying to understand how everything I built began to fall apart on a day that looked completely ordinary. I remember that morning clearly, though I didn't know it would matter. The sun came in through the kitchen window the same way it always did, landing softly on the table where my wife had already set the tea. She didn't say much, and I didn't notice that she didn't say much. That was the kind of man I was back then, always moving, always thinking ahead, believing silence meant everything was fine. I was 46 at the time, busy with work, convinced that what I was doing was necessary, even noble. I told myself I was building something for my family, that the long hours, the missed dinners, the quiet distance that had settled into the house were all temporary. I believed there would be time later to fix what I was neglecting. That day my son had asked me to come see something at his school. I remember him standing near the door, holding his bag, waiting for my answer. I didn't even look up properly when I told him I couldn't make it. I said I was busy, that I had something important to handle. He nodded, the way children do when they're trying to understand something that doesn't quite make sense, and he left. I don't remember what meeting I had that day. I don't remember what problem I thought was so important, but I remember the way the house felt when I came back that evening. It was quiet, but not the usual quiet. It felt distant, like something had shifted just slightly out of place. My wife was in the living room, sitting with her hands folded in her lap. She asked me how my day was, and I answered the way I always did, short and distracted. I didn't ask her about hers. I didn't ask about our son's school. I assumed I would hear about it later, or that it didn't matter enough to ask. Looking back now, that was the day something small broke. Not loudly, not in a way that demanded attention, but quietly, like a thread coming loose from a piece of fabric. And once that thread starts to unravel, you don't notice it first. You keep wearing it, keep using it, until one day you realize it's no longer holding together. Years passed after that, and life continued in the same pattern. I worked more, convinced I was doing the right thing. My son grew older, more distant, conversations became shorter. My wife spoke less, not out of anger, but out of something softer, something harder to see. There were no arguments, no dramatic moments that would have forced me to stop and look closely. That's the strange thing about losing something important. It doesn't always leave with noise. Sometimes it just slowly fades while you're busy looking somewhere else. I remember one evening, years later, sitting at the same table where the sunlight used to fall. My son was already a young man by then. He spoke to me politely, respectfully, but there was a space between us that I didn't know how to cross. I tried to ask him about his life, but it felt like I was asking a stranger. And my wife, she had become quiet in a way that felt permanent. Not sad, not angry, just distant, like someone who had learned not to expect much anymore. It took me a long time to understand that the distance I felt in that room didn't appear overnight. It began on days like that one, the ordinary day I've been telling you about, the day I chose something else over a moment that would never come back. I used to think life fell apart because of big mistakes, the kind you can point to and say, that's where everything went wrong. But that's not how it happened for me. It happened in small choices, repeated over time. It happened in the things I didn't say, the moments I didn't show up for, the attention I gave to everything except the people who needed it most. There was a time when I tried to fix it. I remember coming home earlier one evening, thinking I would sit with my family, talk to them, maybe even laugh the way we used to, but by then they had already built lives that didn't depend on me being present. They had learned to move forward without waiting. That realization is a quiet kind of pain, not sharp, not overwhelming, but steady. It stays with you in the background, reminding you of what could have been different. Now at 82, I find myself thinking about that day more often than I'd like to admit, not because it was dramatic, but because it was so ordinary. It taught me something I wish I had understood earlier, that the moments we think are small are often the ones that shape everything. I can't go back and sit at that table again. I can't look up when my son is standing at the door and give him a different answer. I can't notice my wife's silence and ask her what she's feeling. Those moments are gone in a way that nothing can bring back. But I can tell you this, as someone who has lived long enough to see how these things unfold, life doesn't fall apart all at once. It drifts. It shifts quietly, day by day, until one day you look around and realize you're standing in something you don't recognize. If you're listening to me now, and there's someone in your life waiting for your attention, your time, your presence, don't assume there will always be another chance. Don't wait for a better moment, because the moment you have might already be the one that matters. I used to believe I had time to fix everything later. I was wrong about that. And if there's anything left for me to say, it's this. Pay attention to the ordinary days. They're not as ordinary as they seem,